Fadi, we really appreciate you coming on and coming to us from Lebanon, which we actually haven't had a designer from Lebanon yet. And I actually have a Lebanese background, which I mentioned before. And I really appreciate you coming on and sort of showing your experience as a designer, in the wider scale of the world. And yeah, coming on and sharing a bit about your background. It's going to be really great to have you on. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Roman, and hello, Ethan, as well.
Hey, how you
My
going?
name is Fadi. My name is Fadi. I'm from Lebanon, and I run a product design agency in addition to advertising and things like that. I'm not going to advertise my company, but I'm going to talk about product design and whatever you have in mind.
Yep, that sounds good. But yeah, so maybe just to start off, would you like to go through a bit about your background as a product designer and in branding, and maybe just discuss the key projects that brought you to who you are today?
Mostly, my background is in graphic design and branding, plus advertising. Recently, like 6, 7 years ago, we started on working on 3D models, but what triggered that was something funny.
Mm.
I studied in telecom the antenna theory, and making antennas for a lot of things, testing telecom thing. So every time we need to model something, we used to use CST Studio, which has a very primitive modeling thing.
Mm.
So we shifted into SolidWorks, where we can just tweak and tinker the things and stay within the material limits, where we have more control. Once we finish the structure, we would take it into CST Studio. CST Studio, just to give you a little background about it, you just put any metallic object, wire, printed circuit, and you test it. How does it respond to a certain frequency?
Okay.
Later on, a project popped up, and it was something related to plastic, PET actually, polyethylene. I can't figure. It's a PET, which is the same plastic bottle that you use to drink water.
Mm.
The
Yep.
commercial one.
Yep.
And that triggered the modeling thing. That triggered the modeling issue. And since then, I've been designing plastic bottles and glass bottles. When it came to glass bottles, I needed a portfolio. So I created like 4 or 5 brands for me, just to exhibit what can I do, like show your muscles. This is what I did. And since then, I've been getting projects from Belgium, France, Eastern Europe, United States, and haven't got the opportunity to get some jobs from Oceania, which is Australia, New Zealand. That's what you call it?
Yeah. Maybe one day, one day.
Yeah, maybe. Probably you are more beer drinkers.
Oh, we Australians, we actually have a few distilleries in Australia where we make spirits and things like that. There's like Lark in Tasmania, and there's Starwood, which is I think in like Victoria. So yeah, we do some spirits as well. But yeah, Australians love their beer.
There's lots of
Yeah, but
breweries around.
uh, also, I try in my designs to do something which is unique. Not
Mm.
put all my effort on just slap a label on a bottle. Like I see on LinkedIn, for example, a lot of people do bottle designs and branding, but what you see is standard bottles, and they spend so much time engraving the paperwork, which is the label on the bottle,
Mm.
doing sketches, doing those things that, if you look, for example, at the Chivas bottle label, or something like wine bottles, and you see the chateau. I went into a different road. I worked more on the glass rather than on the labeling.
Mm.
And in addition to that, I usually do some unique packaging. I tried plastic packaging, I tried cardboard packaging, tried metallic packaging. which gives it something like a unique look. You know, the first thing that you look on a shelf is the package,
Exactly.
especially if it's a new brand. Second, you look at the glass. I don't know if I'm still in the topic, or did I just
No, definitely. I mean,
distract?
I suppose the challenge with working with glass as well is there's a lot more difficulties that goes into creating an interesting form with glass because you have to have an understanding of, glass manufacturing techniques. Is that something that you built up over time or you worked with the manufacturer to understand?
Working with glass is extremely difficult, yes.
Mm.
The manufacturer starts doing it's something like starts at 20,000 euros,
Yep.
which is something more like $22,000 American dollars. So there is not much of a mistakes, not much of mistakes are allowed, not much
Mm.
of errors. And surely, whenever you send a design to a manufacturer will tell you, oh, I can't do that. We have to work on this side. We have to work on the engraving. We have to work on the neck. When we just cast the glass will expand. You have to make it shallower. You have to thicken it. You have to thin it. You
Mm.
know, lots of constraints in working in glass.
Mm.
And there's also the competition in glass. Like, for example, I'm not trying to say anything about countries, but you know, the Chinese competition is always there. And they try to do shortcuts. Like, for example, you do a certain design, you send it, for example, to a glass manufacturer in Romania, which is cheaper than to do it in Belgium or Italy or in Czech
Mm.
Republic. You find a lot of different prices. Surely the stockholder, the investor, the client who is paying for that would prefer the Chinese price, which sometimes is like 15% or 20% the price. But
Mm.
that's the price you have to pay affects the quality.
Yeah.
And you have to be careful. I'm not insulting China or I have something against the Chinese. No, on the contrary, there are great manufacturers and manufacturers who are ready to communicate, but many communication issues arise. Yes, I can do that. They always tell you, yes, I can do that. But you end up, they do it just this way, their way. You tell them, this is not what I want. Here, you reach a hurdle. Then you have to go back to the drawing board to show him exactly what you have to do, what you're doing.
Mm. Yep.
You have to show him steps of how it's done. And then the price ends up like 20% different from a manufacturer with an experience with high quality standards.
Mm.
I don't know if you got my point.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I suppose it gets to a certain point where it's not worth the extra cost, and the price saving. And I suppose there's a lot of companies that are going down that route now where they're starting to look for other manufacturers outside of China in different locations, because of that reason. I suppose there's various limitations with working with China, and also the costs have got a lot more as well now. It's not as cheap as it used to be in China anymore. So yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
Uh, recently, we explored something, a new cap, which is called Vinolock.
Hmm.
Vinolock is made in Germany, and they've got agencies and offices all over the world. They use glass caps, just like the one you showed me on the decanter,
Hmm.
but there is a polymer that stops the liquid from seeping out or leaking. The client wanted, for example, this German technology to be incorporated into this bottle that he's manufacturing in China.
Hmm.
There we reached a hurdle, for example, because this would not match that. And manufacturing companies was not ready to comply with the curvature and how it fits. And he told him, I'll just do the same as that.
Hmm.
Here, you've got copyright issues, you've got legal rights, you've got things like that, that you can't just copy someone for somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always there are things like clients want certain material, they see something, and they would want just like it.
Mm.
In addition to the problems we're having with clients experimenting with AI. AI gives you ideas that are impossible to manufacture.
I suppose that will be a bit of a, like, I've already experienced this somewhat in my job, but that is somewhat of an issue. Like the client has more creative knowledge, well, assumed creative knowledge than they did in the past because of AI. So like they might think that they're a fair expert in a specific field because they've searched it into AI. And the problem with that is then it creates issues because what they expect is, sure, because it came from AI isn't necessarily always the case. So I suppose that's a bit of an issue as well. Yeah.
I don't want to be a person, an old-fashioned or an old school person, but AI is not helping a lot.
Mm.
Actually, it's making our lives difficult rather than making our lives easier. As you said, the client actually doesn't have creative knowledge.
Mm.
He have creative ideas. He gets creative ideas from AI. But creative knowledge is that we know that this can be done or this can't be done. Actually, not printing on a paper. We are manufacturing a solid object that requires cast, that requires heat, that requires the flow, the structural integrity, and requires as well the just name came up with, if it falls from your hand, uh, would it break or wouldn't it break? Would it shatter or not? Where you have to do the reinforcements for glass, for example.
Mm.
AI doesn't know that today, but probably will tomorrow. But the client doesn't understand that. He says, I want this. A client once sent me a dragon lapping around a bottle. He said, I want that glass. He said, no, they can manufacture it in China. I told him, go to China, check it out.
Yeah. Sometimes I suppose you've just got to know, like, this is the issue working with founders as well. Like quite regularly you'll have limitations like this. And I suppose at a certain point you just have to know when to turn the client away if it's not worth it. Yeah.
You've worked across product, industrial, and branding design. How did you come to integrate all these disciplines um, into your work?
Well, this so I have clear with the products you're working with. You have to know the consumer. You have to think as a consumer. You have to know that there are products that are feasible to use, or can be molded, or can't be molded, can be welded, or can't, can be pressed. So each product or brand or any project you are working on, the main concept dictates the design process.
Mm.
By time, by experience, little by little, you tend to know that this is the right way. I tell you, there are a lot of failures to get some success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Failure is never a problem. I actually happy with the failure. I am happy with the problem. I am happy if something doesn't work well,
Mm.
because this time you are working on this project. Let's say you're getting $5 for it, $5. The next project is 10. You can do it perfectly. You lose that 5 to get that 10, and you win a 20 next time. That's from the financial side. From the portfolio side, you do a better job.
Yeah.
From the ego side, well, you start, how do you say, blowing up, pumping your ego up. So you dare enter a bigger project.
Yeah.
And I always tell this to junior designers or to fresh graduates. Guys, build your portfolio. Do whatever you want. Stop putting your school and university projects. Those things aren't considerable. Build something for yourself. Show what you can do. Show what you have. Show your potential. You never know when an industrialist or a design agency would just grab you
It's
Good
true.
advice.
for this.
It's very good advice. I'm very
Sorry?
recent. I said it's very good advice. I'm very recent out of uni as well. I've only been out in the industry for a year, so hearing that is very inspirational, and I will build my portfolio.
Look, I say one thing, although it may not be how do you say, very efficient, but I always say, follow your heart, don't follow your pocket.
Mm.
Follow your heart. If you have a heart for something, go for it. Give it some time. Maybe you're working a job, for example, at a certain job, just to stay up, to keep up your living standards, but give like 20-30% of your time to your heart. You love this, go for it. Go for it. Build something for yourself. Find a track. Create a track. It's not wrong. One day, you never know. For example, I had an issue. I used to like to have like a whiskey in the afternoon, okay, or in the evening. I had an issue with what you call it, the esophagus. So I stopped drinking. What I did, I found something. I used to just design without rendering. Keep the rendering. So I put some effort into rendering. It just distracted me from having that whiskey. See how? I found something that made me get distracted, and it worked well. So when you show a client a rendered product, it's something good. Although I used to send it to be rendered elsewhere. But when I put my hands into it, I found it distracting on lots of other things. I don't know if this is within the topic, but it's good to tell. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
I know, that's good.
It's one of those things like sometimes these, skills, like, you've moved from branding, graphic design into industrial design into 3D models, doing rendering as well now. Like sometimes I suppose these things seem, if you're already pretty confident in your skills, it seems, scary to push out of the boundaries into something like that. But I suppose if you spend the time and you commit yourself to it and you follow something that you're actually passionate about, anything's possible.
Speaking about passion, I will give you the whiskey example for something. As I was working on bottles and on products and food products, I used to get distracted by looking at drones, the military drones. So in my portfolio, you'll see like something like 3-4 helicopter drones, 3-4 drones. These things kept me calm, kept me, a designer is crazy. A designer is genius and crazy. Sorry, I hit the microphone. Genius and crazy, there's a very thin line between them. And you need to stay happy, relaxed, and things like that. So I found like designing drones, although I'm not going to sell them, I'm not an aviation engineer, I know nothing about avionics, I know nothing about aerodynamics, but these things kept me calm, kept me happy, kept me focused, let me explore things. There was my heart. That's when I said, follow your heart. There was my heart with aviation, although I will never be able to create something that flies. The funny thing, like 3-4 days ago, I got a WhatsApp from someone in the Sultanate of Oman asking me, did you do this drone? I told him yes. He said, the Ministry of Defense would like to hire you. I told him, wait. I don't know anything about this. These are just aesthetics. These are just cosmetics. None of these can fly. I don't think the center of gravity is right. They look sexy. And what triggered that, I was doing a watch brand, and the watch brand had something like military theme. That's why I made the drone, and I loved it, and I kept making the drone because I put the picture of the drone next to the watches and gave brands for the watches. Like this watch is for the center commander. This one is the one who drives the drone. This one is the one who arms the drone. The titanium model is for that. The black model is for that, and the picture of the drone. And that was the advertising concept. And that triggered something, which turned out that's something I'd love. and would keep me happy.
Yeah.
So follow your heart more than you follow your pocket. That's what I tell designers.
Mm. Yeah. Next question I'd like to ask is, you've been in this industry for a long time. You worked across, a couple of decades. How has design changed in, since the 90s? Like, how is it different, today versus back then?
What I say, since I have like 30 years of experience, 29 or 30, can't figure out, I noticed that design did not change.
Mm.
A tool is a tool. A screwdriver is a screwdriver, and a pliers is a pliers for the mechanic. But what has changed probably is the consumer, is the people that perceive the design, the advertising agencies, how they do the research on the consumers. For example, today people want something quick, fast, and as they see it on social media, they don't care. They don't care how you just brand the product. Because if you see, there are a lot of products that are minimum branded, minimal design. You
Mm.
see just like a can of cola or a can of energy drink with few text or a picture of a horse or a cat or I don't know what, or a dog, and that's it. Now the consumer checks the social media, doesn't read the can.
Mm.
He sees somebody drinking that, somebody jumping with that. The consumer had changed, but design, we all still use like CorelDRAW, Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, SolidWorks, Fusion 360, a Blender, Rhino. The tools may have changed a bit, but the consumer has changed a lot. The
Mm.
perception has changed a lot. What we are fighting is to comply with the preference rather than to use or find the right tool.
Mm.
Because the tools are there. You can have a new screwdriver or an old screwdriver, and they will all just tighten a screw or untighten it.
Mm. Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, definitely. I suppose it's one of those things where, like, as a designer, you have to sort of evolve your understanding of the consumer. Like as you're saying, the tools don't change, but we have to sort of continue to re-educate ourselves as to what is the market trends, what does the consumer actually want in order to, align with not just industrial design, but then how does it actually fit into the market? Yeah.
The trend, you notice something like a steepness in the curve of trends. Trends since like 5 years ago have steepened more than it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was growing gradually, changing gradually the trend. Then 5 years ago, it just spiked up. Like now people, they just want to see something on social media, try it, like it, throw it away, move to the next subject.
Mm.
There are very, very little loyalties to brands.
Yeah.
This is something that really affects you. That before we used to design for a long term, as products used to endure. Today, products must be consumed immediately and thrown away. A phone charger, for example, used to work across several changes of the same phone, same mobile phone. For example, take Android. There is the USB B, C, or whatever. Now, you see that every couple of years they just change something. Now, every 6 months they change something. So you don't do things that would last long or are made to be used as a standard for a long time, because standards are shifting and you have to follow up with these standards. And it's a very fast changing market. That's a problem. And at the same time, people believe that this is evolution and products are evolving, which is actually not evolving. They are selling faster. Yeah, I was saying that products are evolving very fast. They don't seem to have the enough at the cars, the electrical cars, there hasn't been enough testing for them. Do you notice that?
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Especially with the batteries and
Especially with the batteries.
how
Yeah.
long they last, because they've been predicted to last a certain period of time, and they're now those estimates are now failing or falling short. So
You notice also that cars today have more gimmicks than they have real functional things. If you want to turn up the volume or just lower the air conditioner or just check the rear mirror, they are all on one single iPad.
Mm.
They
Yeah.
are on an iPad in front of you.
Yeah, there's a loss of user experience with cars now, unfortunately.
There was a topic a couple of days ago on LinkedIn talking about knobs and touch screen.
Mm.
Uh, Even new designers and new, I mean neo designers, not new designers, the ones that are more into what's fashionable, what's trendy. They say, okay, it's beautiful, it's lovely, but it's not practical.
Mm.
When it comes to practicality, that's another issue we have. Practicality and ergonomics. Yeah, I'd like to shout it out. Come on, guys. We need a practicality. We need ergonomic.
Mm.
If you make, for example, a mouse, a computer mouse, okay, I need it. I don't need it beautiful. I don't want it to with all those bells, whistles, and lights and things like that. I want to I don't want wrist fatigue.
Yeah.
Did you test it for wrist fatigue?
I suppose it's one of those things as well, like people always will go for whatever's more aesthetic when they're designing, and like that's sort of a trap of university as well. Like you're always trying to design pretty objects, but deep down the actual reason for an industrial designer is not necessarily to design pretty objects. Like obviously that's part of it, but it's one, design practical objects that are for the user, but also manufacturable objects. Like these are the key things for industrial design, really. And it's something that sometimes people lose track of. Like they focus on just pure aesthetics and lose what's actually important, you know?
I had a client once who had a decal or an icon of his product, of the logo icon. The logo icon had sharp edges. The design had sharp edges. It's a shape with sharp edges. Uh, the client wanted to engrave it on the bottle, engrave it, then emboss it, do an engravement, which is a contour or something around the icon, then emboss the icon, and then add something like uh, uh, zinc plating, like a metal thing that sticks on the engravement of the bottle. I
Mm.
told him, okay, this is it. This is how it looks like. I'll do whatever you like, but be careful. This thing can cause injury. If the bottle slips from your hand, or if you're touching the bottle so fast, I am sure it would cut your palm. You will go into lawsuits. He said, no, I want it. He 3D printed one, went to a milling machine, cut that metal thing, and just glued it to the plastic, the PLA, the print on the PLA. They were just handling it in their marketing department, and a lady there cut her hand.
Yeah.
I told him, okay, you are playing with a plastic. This is not a consumer. Unless you want it for a bar fight. For a bar fight, this bottle would work fine, but not for a consumer. So aesthetics have to be studied well, and they have to listen to the designer,
Mm.
especially I'm not a stubborn designer. I always care for ergonomics. I care for handling. uh, I put aesthetics probably little bit towards the rear. But
Mm.
first, I look at ergonomics and handling
Yep.
and the consumer. Consider the consumer.
Mm. What strategies would you say that you use to consider ergonomics? Like do you use anthropometric data in your designs, or do you more just use prototyping and things like that to achieve a ergonomic design?
Ergonomic design, it is ergonomic. It's something, when you say the word ergonomic, it's not statistical data. It's not numbers. It's just let it be handled. Like one client told me, Fadi, make it stupid proof. Make it dummy proof. As simple as that. That's the how do you say, the slang of what I'm gonna talk about. If you make something that is easy to handle, that is something that is not trouble to carry, is not a trouble to give, it's not trouble to open, doesn't give you trouble to use. You don't need like a rocket engineering just to know how to use this product. Then this is ergonomic.
Yep.
And you have to think also of women, with all respect, I'm not being sexist, but when you create a can with a certain, handle that she's gonna break her nail, your can will never be bought by her again if she breaks a nail. So you have to think of that as well using consumer products. You don't have to, your product also can at least sit in your shelf. When a client comes to me and he wants to make something like 40 centimeters bottle, I tell him, okay, which cabinet can fit that? Come on, my friend, stay within 34, 32 centimeters. You're going 42. Are you going to build a cabinet to just fit that bottle?
Yeah. I mean, that's the role of the designer too. That's the role of the designer quite often, is to educate the client.
An educated client is one of your best clients. Nothing beats an educated client and an open client that is ready to listen, ready to understand. Sometimes clients that are more educated in you or know their product more than you, you should not consider them as your enemies. Consider them as your school teachers. I learned a lot from Germans. I'm not being like nationalistic or saying this country is better than that. No, but those people are strict and they come with specifications and they tell me we want it this way and this one is rejected. I ask why, they explain. From those people you learn. Sometimes you get a stubborn client that he wants just that. This is what I want. It's your job to do it. In my case, I come across a, how do you say, two-way road, go left or go right. I tell him, no, go do it elsewhere. Or sometimes I say, okay, I'll do it based on what it is. But even if you have to give him discount or work for free, a highly educated client is a school.
Yeah, definitely.
That should be considered. Did I answer it?
Yeah, yeah. Next question, obviously Lebanon has a very rich history. It's got a very long history with the Phoenicians and Romans and all these different cultures that have had a influence on Lebanon. Do you use inspiration from historical artifacts or anything like that? Have you ever drawn from the history of Lebanon in your designs?
Yes, I've done it a lot of times, not even from Lebanon, and in certain lines that doesn't infringe their cultural beliefs, religious beliefs, lifestyles, and things like that. If you take something from the culture, you have to make sure historically disturbing.
Yeah.
I believe that designer should educate himself or herself.
Yeah.
How do you usually take a concept from an idea to a market-ready product? Can you walk us through the creative process that you take to get it from the idea to that industry level?
This is, and I have two answers for this question. If I am building a product for myself or a product just to promote my work or give something like add it to my portfolio, inspiration comes from lots of things. I created a logo one time for a company that do cakes from a song. I heard a song. It is Sara perché ti amo, the Italian song. And there was this little word, vola vola. Vola, which means fly. So I created a flying package for a cake from a song. I love country music. One time I heard a song for Marty Robbins about a Mexican tavern and some dancer. And when I was contacted by a client who is in Texas, he told me, I'm thinking of doing something, and we have a tequila factory in Mexico. And I told him, listen, how about I send you this concept and see if you like it? That's where I created La Canción de Oro and La Canción de Plata, which means the silver song and the gold song. It's based on a song. And I created the bottle, the package, the logo, all of that of a song that was in 1959.
That's cool.
Inspiration comes from everywhere.
Mm.
The second part is sometimes the client comes with an idea and you have to get the inspiration from somewhere.
Yeah. I imagine that's quite difficult sometimes as well, especially if they can be quite, or not, they don't provide you with that much information because they're not familiar with what they're actually wanting. And they kind of just give you a brief and you've got to, as a designer, figure that out.
Listen, the difference between a human and a robot is one thing. AI, for example, is a robot. You just tell him exactly what to do, and he goes and do it within those boundaries. But as we human, as we designers are human, and we are flesh, blood, and thoughts, you have to come up with something based on a feeling, inspiration, mood, and put that, like squeeze it and twist it and put it in the brief to see if it would taste good. Brief are dull ingredients. They are just like, I don't know, like potatoes, onions. These are briefs. They come, I want potatoes, I want onions, I want garlic, and I want celery, and I want, I don't know, nuts. But the spices, they have to come from you. The juices, the sauce to cook this project with the dull potatoes and the dull onions, which you can't eat raw, and even if you cook them, they will taste that good without adding the spices and the ingredients, which is your insight, your creativity. Because there are 3 or 4 meals made of, for example, potato, meat, and onion, but they taste different in different countries. Take a little bit of the culture of the country, take a bit of your inspiration, blend it with this ingredient, come out with this product. Yes, and some briefs sound like potatoes, like sack of potatoes.
I really like that concept of the design as a cooking process. That's a good way to take it.
The spices, you have to pick something that the right spice. You get the spice from the tone of voice of the client. What is he looking for? Who is his target market? Who are his audience? What does he have for the future of his product? Will his product sell at a high price or at a lower price? Will his product compete with this or with that? You have to take all these, consider all these, and spice up the product on how it's going to be. We're talking about product, not cooking class or cuisine or French cuisine. But no, the spices have to come from the designer.
Yeah, definitely. And I wanted to talk to you about the developing packaging. How do you balance visual appeal with the usability and brand consistency? So when you've done your bottles and things, how do you balance all of those things?
Well, packaging, there is one thing. I also discussed this with several friends like a month ago. I told him the client is ready to pay great amounts of money, top dollar, to create, for example, the liquid. Second stage, he's ready to make something like a decent classy glass. But when he reaches packaging, oops, the budget is a bit low. Can we go smaller? Can we go cheaper? Can we go that? Can you cut on that? Very rarely that you find a client that is ready to go for packaging from day one. From day one, he tells you, I'm doing a great liquor. I'm spending this much on the liquor. I'm spending this much on the glass. I'm spending this much on labeling, this much on packaging. If he gives you this from the beginning, you can experiment with packaging material. You can tell him, we can go cardboard, we can go ABS plastic, we can go metal, we can go like, we can add something like, it's called Zamak, zinc, aluminium, metals, and things like that, which is something like coins that they put on bottles, they put on packages. We can go for embossing, we can go for debossing, we can go for gold foiling, silver foiling. And there are also like, what do you call it? Anodized metal foiling, which is that bright colors you see. The thing in packaging is mostly based on client budget. I always give the client the option of great packaging, but we end up in this tight corner where the client has a tight budget left for packaging. Although the last thing you do is packaging because the product needs to be developed, but it's the first thing that the consumer sees on the shelf.
Exactly.
The consumer sees the package, and he sees what's inside the package, then he tastes what's inside of the package. And this is what the client always have to remember and keep a certain budget for package. It's the last thing you do, but the first thing that the consumer sees.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially with spirits, I feel like spirits are one of those things where the packaging really sells the product. Like you can have like even like a cheap scotch in a good box has some inherent value more than, a really, really nice scotch, but in a really bad packaging. Like, and even I noticed with whiskeys, which I'm sure you would experience with this, like quite regularly the whiskey will tell a story. So if it's like a modern whiskey, it'll be very like modern packaging that will try to like position the fact that it's brand new sort of. But if it's more of a classic like scotch from Scotland, it'll sort of try to have golds and engravings and things to try and present that it's a very historical bottle from an old distillery. So I suppose in that way you've got to really communicate that through the packaging as well.
Usually, this is what Nasib, and I was talking earlier about trends and about how the trends are shifting. The old boys in the whiskey playground, they are still maintaining their heritage and advancing slowly through modernization. But you have always to take account that there are new boys here in town that are just coming there. They just want to try their luck. Already they were like making whiskey, like for example, for the past 5 years, 6 years. They want to just grab a bit of the market share. Although they're going to grab a bit, collectively, they will grab, for example, like 5% of the market share of the old players. But not one of them will try and approach at least 1%, reach 1%. These guys try to make an impression. They try to make an impression by modern look. They try to make an impression by making something like with old cultural, give it an old cultural and historical background. But still in the liquor market, there is a new trend. It's, the blending. Whiskey is drank alone. Jack Daniels, for example, say Jack and Coke. Come on. Jack and Coke, it's something like, how do you say, much more teenager drink.
Yeah.
Not for someone who just like to taste whiskey. I was discussing with a client. He asked me, how do you drink a whiskey? I told him, very simple. I just don't add ice. I don't add water. And after I open the bottle, I let it breathe. And as long as you're smelling the whiskey in the glass, it means it hasn't breathed enough.
Mm.
If you pour your whiskey in a decanter, it will breathe. This is for good whiskey. But for whiskey, for example, that is, they just need whiskey to get drunk. That's a different story.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
not a whiskey to taste, to enjoy, to feel,
Mm.
to have that feeling on your tongue, on your cheeks, on your inner cheeks, in your heart, the warmth. You are not fishing for warmth here. You are fishing to get drunk. That's a different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I suppose you have to sell that experience that that they are going to experience through the whiskey, through the packaging and the product as well. And that's the difficulty, trying to communicate that through the packaging.
Look, for example, let's say take whiskey, for example. You know, there's the American whiskey, there's Japanese whiskey, there's German whiskey, there is Eastern European whiskey. Everybody can make whiskey. Everybody can make whiskey. But like majority of whiskey drinkers know whiskey this way. That's a Johnny Walker. That's a Chivas Regal. That's I don't know. That's a Jack Daniels. That's a Jim Beam. These are the standard tastes. They come with this classical whiskey. I'm ready to test it. But taste testing gives you more idea about what's inside. That's why I advise my clients, do a nice packaging, do a nice bottle, do whatever. But when you promote it, go, for example, to a mall, do some sampling, give some sampling, let people taste it. In a liquor shop, open some bottles. Let the consumer who comes in, greet him with a taste of your whiskey. There he will buy, especially if you are new to the market. The package would just give a distraction, but will just make a head turn around. But will it decide a buy? No. The sampling is what tells you to buy. Cheese does it, milk does it, chocolate does it. Why don't you do it?
Yeah.
Now, you've seen the design industry evolve massively. What changes have surprised you the most over the last few decades?
Consumer preference usually is the most thing we notice. How consumers shift from something they love into something they hate, and then they love something else. Consumer today, I see after the COVID virus, after the COVID virus started, and after the COVID came, it created chaos in the consumer behavior, consumer consumption, consumer preference, and as if the consumer just want to try everything before he or she dies. I just want to taste that. I want to do that. I want to love that. I want to hate that. I want to try this, try that. It just shifted the whole market. I don't know if you noticed that. In clothing, in food, in drinks, in cars, everything. The market just went crazy after the COVID.
I suppose, I don't know, I'm interested why that would be. I suppose it's probably because people were locked up. People, had more time to spend looking for things. They sort of just, expose themselves to so many different products that now they maybe have a better awareness. So they're not as, dedicated to specific things that they had been using for years. Now they sort of just go for anything. I don't know. It's interesting. What reason do you think that has caused that to happen, specifically related to COVID?
Look, home confinement, and during the COVID, home confinement, and how they just sat at home and they just browsed the net and ordered everything online. They were more attached to social media and to influencers. Oh, that's the disaster. Influencers. An influencer would do anything to let you try this product, whether it's edible or not, drinkable or not, wearable or not, usable or not, ergonomic or not. Influencer just get paid to push something for you to use. Now, during the COVID, you didn't have the opportunity to go to the supermarket or the store and just touch the product with your hand, turn it around, bite it, hug it, whatever, and see if you love it and bring it home. Now the influencer is doing that for you. And if you trust the influencer, you'll buy that. If you don't trust him, you'll go for another influencer. So just there, some mediator just parachuted between you and the product. And this mediator just either have helped you buy the product or has just cheated you with buying this product.
Yeah.
He found his way to your pocket and found his way as well to the manufacturer's pocket. And he's benefiting from both. Influencers are good.
Well, yeah, I mean, I really appreciated our chat. You know, we've gone through a whole bunch of different topics, but maybe just to wrap it up, would you be able to discuss, obviously you've met a lot of different designers over the years. You know, you've met a lot of different levels of designers. If there was a new designer coming into the field, what advice would you give them on how they can, you know, get into the field, but also build their career up in the way they would like to have it?
As I said earlier, I tell them to follow your heart. Don't be too trendy. Trends die as fast as they rise. They don't stay. Look for doing something, a product that will endure. Do a product that you feel and it will work. Ask your friends. Let them try it. Make a prototype. Test it. Let other people test it. Not just sister test it. No. Listen to everyone. Listen to the dumbest idea and listen as well to the smartest idea. Everybody, I say nobody doesn't know. Everybody knows. Everybody knows something. And by the way, feel free to ask. Don't get demotivated. A lot of people try to demotivate you. A lot of people try to push you down. Keep your head up. Go on. Try. There are people that have reached a certain level and now they are becoming snobs with high down and they just won't help you. Don't ignore them. See who will stand by you. Listen to you. Gather all those ideas. Be objective. Be objective. Don't be subjective. If you fail once, try again and try again. Edison made 120 bulbs before blasted. That's Edison. You're still a bit lower rank than Edison. So it's okay if you made 150 bulbs.
I like that. That's good advice. I definitely think we have a lot of young people who watch this podcast, and you know, I suppose when you graduate from university, you know, you might be struggling to find a job. It can feel daunting, and you can beat yourself down and take, you know, criticism from other people. But end of the day, as long as you persist and you work harder and you have your heart in the right place, anything's possible.
I am on LinkedIn. All those young people, those young designers, let them connect. Show me what they're working on with all confidence. I will help them, give them some insights. I don't mind. I was nobody helped me when I was that young and when I started something. And I just want to do the opposite. I want to help you guys. Let me know when you have something. Don't spam me, but show me what you're doing. Tell me what you're doing with confidence. I will not snatch your idea. I will tell you, this is not feasible. Do that. Don't do that. I'm on LinkedIn. You can always find me there. As Roman found me, and I'm very happy to meet Ethan as well. Connect. I will be more than happy to help. And I just loved this interview. By the way, you just added to my ego.
I appreciate having you on. Your insights have been very helpful. We'll leave it at that.
Thank you. I wish I was up to your standard, as this is probably my first podcast.
No, you did well. You did very well.
Great. It's been great.
Especially with the Lebanese internet.
I didn't get that. Probably it's the problem of the internet. Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you. Have a good one. Thank you, Fadi.
Yes, you too. It was very enjoyable. Nice meeting you, Ethan. Roman, thanks a million.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
See ya. Bye.
Bye bye.